EnviroGold Global is a clean tech company at the forefront of two big trends: solving environmental problems that stem from mining waste and also feeding the world's demand for precious, critical, and strategic metals. Joining us now for more on the company is the CEO, Dr. Mark Thorpe. Good to see you, sir.
Nice to see you too, Mark. Thank you.
Now, further to what I just said off the top there, the company's two main goals appear to be reprocessing mining waste and also feeding, as I said, the world's seemingly insatiable demand for precious, critical, and strategic metals. So just in a brief overview, can you give us a sense of how your company does all that? How do you pull it together?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. We work with tailings owners to identify an opportunity to recover the critical, strategic, and precious metals that are contained therein. And then we use our proprietary extraction process to reprocess the tailings and produce either concentrates or a doré. And we're very pleased that we've got two contracts already in place, and we're working hard to get the first project into production.
Right, and we'll get to that. You said that your proprietary technology is elegant in its simplicity. How do you describe that? How so?
Well, we've taken a process that was complicated, an acid leach process that was very complicated. It needed high pressure, high temperature. We've taken that down so we can do it at atmospheric pressure and at about 85 Celsius. It's a very simple process. We literally dissolve the pyritic matrix, liberating the gold and the silver into the residue and bringing the base metals into solution. And from there, they're very easy to recover.
Now, Mark, according to the company and some data, there are an estimated 280 billion pounds worth of tailings in the world, worth something like $3.4 trillion. So clearly a massive addressable market. What can you tell us about that market and where EnviroGold Global fits in?
Well, we've looked at 350 different tailings projects around the world. We have a matrix that we put our tailings projects through for screening. We then approach the owners of the tailings and write up an agreement that we can reprocess them. The screening is very important for us because obviously we're looking for tailings that are amenable to our process. And at that particular point, then we can go ahead and do the work and implement the projects. It's a massive market. Just across Canada alone, if you go onto the NOAMI database, there's about 8,000 individual sites, and we've got the pick of them. So it's a really beautiful thing.
I understand of those 350 plus projects that you've looked at, only 4% or so have made the cut. And you alluded to some of your process there, but I know there are a lot of characteristics that you look at, but what are the two or three main ones that make you say yay or nay?
Well, I think it goes back to mining projects generally, Mark. It's tons and grades. So we need the appropriate tonnage to make it worthwhile, and we need the grade to make it worthwhile. Obviously, we're looking at one of our projects is 2.5 grams a ton of gold. If somebody said that they were going to bring a mine to production with 2.5 grams a ton of gold, everybody would be jumping around. So we have tailings with 2.5 grams a ton of gold that we can access, and we don't even have to mine it. We just pump it and process it.
Now, your main project is a Helier in Tasmania. You've done a PEA, a 43-101. Some of the details from that, some of the highlights, a projected $350 million US in cash flow over 8 years, and an internal rate of return of 66%. So what are some of the other highlights that you can tell investors about?
Well, I think the beauty of the Helier project, it's an operating site. It's a disturbed area. The tailings are highly pyritic and they work really well. One of the things that our process does, it reduces the overall environmental liability. Currently, the tailings at Helier need to be kept under 2 meters of water to prevent acid drainage. Once it goes through our process, which oxidizes the sulfides, then there's no acid drainage potential and the tailings can be closed out as a dry tailings. So we recover the metals, we reduce the environmental loading for the metals, and we reduce the environmental liability for the owner.
You've also said that you're in advanced late-stage talks with a couple of groups representing tailings projects in Mexico. Any news there? Any updates?
All we can say is that we're in that negotiation. We're very pleased with the way things are going, and the owners of the tailings themselves look forward to the opportunity to working with us, because we're going to be able to liberate the value in their tailings that they're unable to get with their conventional flotation processes.
Mark, investors, as you know, love it when insiders have skin in the game, and you've got management and insiders at EnviroGold Global owning about 50% of the shares. So add it all up for us, put a bow on it for investors as to why EnviroGold Global is a company they should look at.
It's a most interesting juncture that we find ourselves with the demand for metals and yet the demand for maintaining environmental responsibility. We sit right at that crossroads. We're able to reduce environmental liabilities, produce the metals that we need for the transition economy to a low carbon economy, and we're able to do it profitably for both our shareholders, as you mentioned, a lot of which are insiders, including myself, and also for the owners of the tailings. And it's really interesting, Mark. I've spent the past more than 35 years doing permitting, dealing with communities, working closely with communities to develop projects. And I used to go to the regulator and say, hey, I'd like to build a tailings pond, develop a mine, etc. Now, when I go to the regulator and I say, hey, we want to produce metals out of tailings and reduce the environmental liability, they say, how can we help you? So it's not only a positive spin on the company, what we're doing with the tailings and the environment, but it's also seen more broadly. Not only the investor, but the regulator and the community stakeholders see it as a positive thing for the world and for the environment.
Right. And as I said off the top, your company really is at the forefront of those two big trends that you described there. Thanks so much for your time today, Mark. We appreciate it, and we'll see you down the road.
My pleasure, Mark, and thank you for your time.
Okay, Dr. Mark Thorpe. He's the CEO of EnviroGold Global. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.